I was lucky. I found what I loved to do early in life. Woz and I started Apple in my parents' garage when I was 20. We worked hard, and in 10 years, Apple had grown from just the two of us in a garage into a $2 billion company with over 4,000 employees. We just released our finest creation, the Macintosh, a year earlier, and I just turned 30. And then I got fired. How can you get fired from a company you started? Well, as Apple grew, we hired someone who I thought was very talented to run the company with me. And for the first year or so, things went well. But then our visions of the future began to diverge, and eventually we had a falling out. When we did, our board of directors sided with him. And so at 30, I was out, and very publicly out. What had been the focus of my entire adult life was gone, and it was devastating. I really didn't know what to do for a few months. I felt that I'd let the previous generation of entrepreneurs down, that I had dropped the baton as it was being passed to me. I met with David Packard and Bob Noyce and tried to apologize for screwing up so badly. I was a very public failure, and I even thought about running away from the valley. But something slowly began to dawn on me. I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit. I'd been rejected, but I was still in love. And so I decided to start over. I didn't see it then, but it turned out that getting fired from Apple was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. The heaviness of being successful was replaced by the lightness of being a beginner again, less sure about everything. It freed me to enter one of the most creative periods of my life. During the next 5 years, I started a company named Next, another company named Pixar, and fell in love with an amazing woman who would become my wife. Pixar went on to create the world's first computer animated feature film, Toy Story, and is now the most successful animation studio in the world. In a remarkable turn of events, Apple bought Next, and I returned to Apple, and the technology we developed at Next is at the heart of Apple's current renaissance. And Lorene and I have a wonderful family together. I'm pretty sure none of this would have happened if I hadn't been fired from Apple. It was awful tasting medicine, but I guess the patient needed it. Sometimes life's going to hit you in the head with a brick. Don't lose faith. I'm convinced that the only thing that kept me going was that I loved what I did. You've got to find what you love, and that is as true for work as it is for your lovers. Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work. And the only way to do great work is to love what you do. If you haven't found it yet, keep looking, and don't settle. As with all matters of the heart, you'll know when you find it. And like any great relationship, it just gets better and better as the years roll on. So keep looking, don't settle.
That's a characteristic that I see in almost everybody that I respect. They all think that everything they do sucks. Or at least they have very, very high standards and are often disappointed by their own work.
Well, I think I have some of that, but I also have that idea of it's something that my father, I don't know if I talked about my dad with you, but he was my wrestling coach in high school. He was also my earth science, biology, and environmental studies teacher.
Really?
He was my teacher.
Oh, what a drag. You went to school with your dad being the teacher?
Yeah. But I learned a lot because he was no joke. He didn't pull any punches for
Right.
me. He drove me as hard, if not harder, than his other students. He didn't show any favoritism. But one of the things that was always his thing on the mat, and I'm kind of paraphrasing, but basically, you either win or you learn. Especially in that high school, college setting, you're learning about yourself. If you went out there and you got your ass handed to you, then you just got beat and didn't learn anything. Well, yeah, you're a loser. You take the moment, reflect on it, build on what you did wrong, and now you're actually, in a way, you've won. Now you know more about yourself. You know about more your limitations or what you need to improve and to expand your talents or your limitations. So I guess whenever I'm doing a thing, I'm always looking at it from a learning perspective. So there aren't necessarily mistakes unless they're fatal. And then you wouldn't know anyway, so whatever.
That really is the right way to look at everything. You win or you learn.
Yeah.
You have great experiences because you were successful, or you have very beneficial experiences because you realized what went wrong.
Yeah.
But it's just one more wrinkle, one more piece of information, or one more experience that you can add to your database of knowledge, and it'll make you better at everything you do.
Don't stay in tomorrow. You've got to, at some point, move from tomorrow to right now. Move from the action that you're going to do on Monday to right now. Not even today, because that gives you all the time until the end of the day. You've got to move your clock When you think about, here's one thing I need to do. I need to schedule more appointments. I'm going to do that right now. Right now. The first available moment I have to do it, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to start right now. I'm going to get moving right now. Because a lot of you are listening to this stuff, and that's great. Listening is great. Understanding is even better. Action is even better than understanding. You can have the most knowledgeable person in the world, but if they keep saying tomorrow, 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 they're never going to get the results that they're looking for. So guess where most of the learning and most of the real understanding comes from? In the doing.
Love yourself 100%. Not worrying what other people think is the greatest form of self-love. When self-love is absent, you will always be worrying what other people think. People that love themselves, we see them all the time in the world. And they're smiling. They're letting go of fear, letting go. And they are soaring to phenomenal heights. We've all gone into the streets and we've seen people singing or playing the guitar in the middle of the road. The more your self-love increases, the more your self-expression increases. And that is the secret. Hug yourself.
When you're in that moment failing and you have to keep going, what do you say to yourself?
What if? A lot of times I'll be in a 200-mile run or something like that, and I'm all jacked up. Body's broken, mind's broken, spirit's broken. I started to say, what if I can pull this off? When I first walked into the Navy SEAL recruiter's office, he looked at me and said, there's only been 35 African Americans in 70 years make it through. You know what I said to myself? What if I can be the 36th? It's the what if I can pull off a miracle. What if I can become someone that no one thinks I can be? And just me talking about that, I have the hair going up on my arms because it makes me just like, what if I can be that guy that people who call nigger and this and that, and now I'm speaking at Tom Ferry's event. What if? That's it.
Thinking completely different is the key. If everyone is competing on one level, you got to think at another. Like for instance, like I'd always wanted to get in television, but TV is it was always so crowded. Everyone's trying to get in on Friday night on NBC. So what do you do when I've always heard this advice and it made sense only recently. Everyone is doing the same thing. Everyone's competing in the same realm. You have to think much bigger. There's a lot less competition up there. There's nobody up there actually. So,
find the hole to fill it instead of trying to
like, I can't get my show on TV. I know. I'll own a network. I can put on any show that I want. And how many other people are going up for a network? You know how many other people applied for that network?
How many?
It was a lot, and then it wasn't a lot. 100 people. In the whole country. The whole country. 100 people threw in an idea for a network and showed a presentation. It's not a lot of people.
That isn't a lot of people.
That's a lot less people that's even in this room. So when you think about that, think about how can I show somebody, how can I get someone's attention? Everyone else is at the festival. Don't go to the festival. Think of something. I mean, go to the festival, but think also something else beyond that. Don't rely on the festival because then you're just crossing your fingers. You got to hit it from other ways. And that promotes much bigger thinking. I always say aim high. Because if you aim just at the festival, you might hit it and you might just hit lower. But if you aim really high, you might still just hit the festival, but at least now you got a chance. You'll hit there, or like.
I think you've got to find what makes you tick. And I think greatness comes from when you marry your passion with your job. Because I don't really think I have a job. I love what I do. And I always say that to kids. I talk to a lot of kids who are at university and say, how do I make a lot of money? And I say, forget the lot of money part. Find something you're going to be great at and let the money follow you.
So what is it about people who find their passion, who work hard and never make a dime? Well, they make a few dimes, but not enough. They never get there.
You know, Fanny, it's interesting because we have this conversation all the time. I live in a very affluent area, and I have these quarterly dinners, or I used to with my neighbors. So at one point I had 20 guys, they were all worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and we asked that same question. Can you always be successful, even if you love what you do and all the other stuff? And the reality is, as my dad said, if you work hard, you will never be poor in life. But just because you work hard doesn't mean you'll be rich. Sometimes you need to get lucky. But the reality is that the harder you work, it's true, the luckier you get.